Connecticut School of Broadcasting. All Noise Radio is an internet radio station that's fully produced by graduates of the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. From modern rock to old school hip hop, country to classical, news, talk, sports, and more. It's the noise you can't ignore. Log on to allnoiseradio.com. Fire up the station. Find out more about your favorite jocks. Get the latest CSB news and more. Plus, you can take All Noise Radio with you on the go for free. Just download the Live 365 app to your iPhone, iPod Touch, or BlackBerry and search All Noise Radio. Check out tomorrow's broadcasters today at allnoiseradio.com. Powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Sit back down and shut your trap. It's time for
Keeping It Sports with M3, right here on All Noise Radio.
Are you ready?
Are you ready?
Well, I'll need some beer.
Are you ready?
You have to ask me nicely.
Come on now, don't be bashful.
Are you ready? Are you ready for
Place for the best sports talk and news surrounding each league.
I can prove it with my usual flawless logic.
Hey man, this time I'm gonna do it my way.
What's your name again?
And now, here's your host, M3, Mike Rosansky. Coming to you from Cherry Hill, New Jersey. It's time for Keeping It Sports with M3, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everything's going well for you here on this Monday, the 9th day of December. How's it going out there? Kind of an eerie, ugly day outside as we sit here with dreams and thoughts of the big day coming up in just 2 weeks, Christmas. Now, what I will say right here, right now, I know I go through this little public service notice about this each and every single year at this time when it comes to Christmas. Don't kill yourselves over it, all right? It's the thought and the gesture that counts, not the amount you spend, not making sure you get each and every single little thing, acting like, oh, the world's going to end if I don't get, this one specific over-the-top gift for a relative or loved one. Just make sure that you stay safe at this time of the year. Everyone's going to be out there doing the same thing. We don't want to hear about any holiday tragedies. And, make sure that you have the right thought in mind with whatever gift you get your loved ones, your siblings, parents, significant other, in-laws, and show them that it's more about the thought than the actual value of the gift. Now, as some of you may notice, my watching on Facebook or watching on Twitter, my nose is a little bit red, and that's because I'm still battling a little bit of cold from yesterday, sniffling all day from going to MetLife Stadium for the Jets game yesterday. I'll talk about the Jets a little bit later on, but as fun it is going to these games, not so much because of the team, because, they're 5-8, but because of, the camaraderie, hanging out with my friends, taking their jet bus up to MetLife Stadium at an ungodly time in the morning when we're freezing our asses off, and having to use some kind of startup spray just to get the jet bus rolling and get it out of the hazardous driveway. When you're at the games, the only problem there is you're missing everything else going on in not just the sports world, but specifically in the NFL, all of the other games. Now, being someone like myself who doesn't have the NFL package, you are limited in what you can watch each and every single week. That's why, NFL Network is a godsend with them having up-to-date highlights and up-to-date things. But being the fact that I got home at a relatively decent time, I was able to catch up on the day, and what a day it was, because you had plenty of games across the board of significant meaning, but there were two in particular that stood out amongst the rest. Thankfully, they weren't at the same time, and I did get to watch a little bit of one of them. Those games being the 49ers in New Orleans to play the Saints, and that 4 o'clock, you got the Chiefs and the Patriots up in Foxborough. Now, 49ers Saints, you have had a lot on the line here because, the Saints had clinched their division last week, but still were in the chase for the number 1 overall seed. And we're sitting in that position going into yesterday with Seattle's victory over the 49ers a couple of weeks ago, and a loss by the 49ers last week in Baltimore that put them in that spot. And early on, you looked at it and you said, the Saints may maintain this lead in the NFC race, the race for the number 1 seed, getting off too quickly. It's had leads in the first half of 20-7, 27-14, scoring on all 4 of their first possessions in the first half. And you're thinking, it's going to be a relatively easy day for the Saints. Going to be, difficult for the Niners to come back in that building down by multiple scores. But slowly but surely, they picked away here. You had that crazy 75-yard touchdown by Emmanuel Sanders that he somehow got enough room on the play to, turn around and catch it and fall on his rear end as he's catching the ball. And with no one around him, was able to get back up and score on the play. And then, in a day where you had 2 offensive gurus here in Kyle Shanahan and Sean Payton, both seem like they want to outsmart the other all day long. You had that double reverse play with Emmanuel Sanders as he's falling to his left off his back foot, throwing to Raheem Mostert for a 35-yard score, get them within 1 touchdown. And surprisingly enough, actually, somehow got the lead going into halftime with Mostert getting a rushing touchdown in there before the break. And it just, was a tit-for-tat battle here. I mean, you would have liked to have seen a little more defense here because I'm not always a big fan of the video game like NFL games. I don't like watching Madden when I'm watching an NFL game. That's why, I'm one of the few that's not doing cartwheels wasn't doing cartwheels, after that Rams Chiefs game on Monday Night Football last year. But this was, exciting. You had enough defense here to satisfy everybody. And, these 2 quarterbacks, going tit for tat here, identical in passing yards on the day. The only knock against Garoppolo was throwing the interception to start off the second half to Craig Robertson. But, the 49ers had, everything seemingly going right for them in the third quarter. On the following drive, you get the Alvin Kamara fumble to give them the ball back, set up Garoppolo to Kittle for a touchdown. And then you have the Saints maybe trying to get a little too cute here, trying to be a little too smart, going for a fake punt. And, at some point, someone's going to realize every time Taysom Hill is on the field that this could happen, that, when he's out there on special teams or whatnot, that he's not just out there to be a blocker, not just out there to protect a kicker. Because I thought it was, you always got to have your head on a swivel because he was a quarterback in college. That this guy can throw the ball. They use him in that quite a bit. So they go for the fake punt, and his pass to Traquan Smith was incomplete. Sean Payton's going ballistic, thinking that there should be pass interference on the play. That Smith got essentially mugged on the play. And while you can maybe argue for holding on there, unfortunately for Sean Payton, two things. One, you can't challenge holding. And two, on a punt, there is no pass interference. Even when you're doing a fake punt and just decide to throw the ball, you got the guy lined up back there and he grabs and decides to throw the football. You cannot call PI on the play. It's almost somewhat the equivalent of if there's a tip at the line of scrimmage. If there's a tip at the line of scrimmage, fair game. You can't call pass interference on the play. So, Sean Payton was livid, refused to answer questions about that after the game. And as we would go on to see, he wouldn't be the only head coach livid about calls on the day. And then what hurts him is the fact that Gardner-Johnson commits back-to-back penalties on the following drive to set up the 49ers for a score. The most notable one was the unnecessary roughness penalty against Kyle Yoshik that gave them the ball on the Saints 6-yard line and set up another touchdown. And, from there, going into the fourth quarter, you're looking at the 49ers up by 9. You're thinking, this might be over. A lot has gone wrong against the Saints, but no, you can never rule them out in that building. You can never rule that offense out in that building, even as good as the 49er defense has been all year long. Breeze led them down the field on two quick touchdown drives wrapped around the 49ers field goal. Got the lead with a minute to go. Problem is they missed the 2-point conversion, and they just made bad penalties at the wrong time yesterday. You mentioned the Gardner-Johnson unnecessary roughness penalty on a third down. Well, on the 49ers' last attempt of the game, somehow Kittle breaks loose for a short little dump-off pass on 4th and 2. And this, if the 49ers win the Super Bowl, make a deep run in the postseason, this could go down as one of the scenes of this NFL season. The fact that, he gets the Niners into respectable territory for a potential Robbie Gould field goal, but as he's doing so, you got Marcus Williams grabbing onto his face mask, and most guys maybe would fall to the ground, not be able to do anything on the play. Kittle's dragging the guy along with them as Williams has got his hand in his face mask, gives him another 15 yards on the play, set up a very reasonable walk-off field goal for Robbie Gould to end what was a crazy, chaotic slugfest down there in New Orleans. Second loss of the season for the Saints at home. And in all reality, they probably should have 3 losses at home if not for the Panthers missing a late field goal back in week 12. So they're fairly lucky to only be 5-2 at home here. And it's almost becoming maybe they're not insurmountable odds for the opposition in New Orleans anymore, for the fact that you saw the Falcons go in there a couple weeks ago, beat them down. That knocked me out of the Sean Hazard knockout pool, as well as now the 49ers, going in there and putting up 48 on them, knowing that, hey, we meet up in the postseason, we got a little extra confidence in our step, knowing that we can beat them in their own building. We've already done it once. In all likelihood, now that matchup could turn out to be in San Francisco if they meet up again. But who knows? Still got 3 weeks on the schedule with the win. The 49ers retake the lead in the NFC for the 1 seed after Seattle's loss last night. But both teams have, difficult roads ahead. For the 49ers, they got the Falcons, and you never know what to expect out of them week per week. And they're 4-9 on the season, but you never know what they're going to be each week because they have all their pieces back healthy. And they got the Rams on Sunday Night Football in 2 weeks, finish up the season in Seattle against the Seahawks, which hopefully that matchup is not just for division title, but home field advantage and a bye in the first round of the postseason. Saints a little less arduous road as they play the Colts this Sunday. The Colts, have had a bunch of demoralizing losses over the last month. They play the Titans, who are probably the sleeper pick of the AFC to make the postseason right now, and the Panthers, who, they might be just playing for pride at that point. Now, the other game of the day that was for significance is Chiefs-Patriots, because the Chiefs pretty much have the AFC West on lockdown, and the Patriots still with desires to get the first overall seed in the AFC side of things had to keep pace after watching earlier in the day the Ravens go into Buffalo, beat the Bills. Bad day for Josh Allen. He just seemed too jacked up for this game, had a lot of incompletions early in the game, and their offense had no answers for Ravens defense has been the number 1 scoring defense in the NFL since acquiring Marcus Peters in Week 7. So the Patriots wanted to keep keep serve and keep pace with the Ravens, so that if they have any slip up along the way, they still have a shot at the 1 seed. But bad day for New England yesterday. Early on, it looked like Mahomes and the Chiefs were going to blow them out. They were up 20-7 at halftime. Were just easily moving the ball down the field. The only Patriots, Patriots really had to get innovative. You had that play with James White throwing to Julian Edelman down the field, but other than that, they didn't have much offense going for them. Brady had only 50 yards in the first half. The team even got booed off the field at halftime, which is, quite frankly, an embarrassment if you're a Patriot fan and you have the unmitigated gall to boo that team. A franchise that has got into 9 Super Bowls and won 6 of them in the last 20 years. You're going to boo a team that still has Tom Brady, even if he might be in the decline, and still has Bill Belichick as your head coach. You're going to boo them off the field? I mean, please. That's a fan base that needs to get the hell over themselves. And I can't wait till those two retire, because then maybe there'll be a little bit of appreciation and respect up there in New England to not, boo them off the field at halftime. But now the Chiefs, got off to such a great start in the first half. Was a struggle in the second half, mostly because Mahomes hurt his hand and was going for x-rays today. So they got a little bit conservative and ran the ball a little bit more in the second half, allowing the Pats to get back into this, and even got the Pats within 10 points when they got the block punt to in the middle of the third quarter. But the problem for the Patriots is, for once, the whistle didn't go their way. The calls didn't go their way, and we know the two biggest calls yesterday. One was the Travis Kelce fumble that Stephon Gilmore recovered, and the problem there is the referee was too quick with the whistle. I mean, one of these refs going to learn to just let the play out. I mean, that cost New Orleans a game earlier this year against the Rams. Hell, pretty much cost them a playoff game last year in New Orleans, the NFC title game. Instead of letting the play out, then you could go back and review it. Instead, they blow the whistle dead, and you thought at first maybe they were going to rule down by contact, say his forward progress got stopped, and then that would have not been able to give back the Patriots the ball. But on review, Belichick actually wins a challenge for once, and you see that, he did fumble the ball. Gilmore was in clear possession of the football, but they couldn't go back and give him the score because Gilmore clearly would have scored on that. Even as a Patriot hater, I got to admit that no one was catching up to him on that. And then what kills him is later on the drive, you have a second controversial play in which you got first down, 15-yard line, a little dump off to Keneal Harry along the left sidelines, and the referees call him out of bounds at about the 3-yard line when on replay you see that his foot never touched chalk, and that as well should have been a touchdown, but unfortunately they called him out of bounds, didn't call touchdown on the play. And the Patriots had to settle for another field goal on that drive. It's bad calls. It's unfortunate, but hey, Patriots are learning what everybody else has gone through for close to 20 years against them. They've always gotten the benefit of the doubt. I mean, look at their entire dynasty almost is built off of calls that went their way. And the number one leading one is the Tuck Rule game against the Raiders back in 2001, 2002. So, bad calls happen to everyone. So I don't want to hear the Pat fans crying today. Plus, you had chances after that. You had chances after the Harry touchdown wasn't called when he was called out of bounds. I mean, Jacoby Myers was wide open in the end zone on 2nd and goal and dropped the ball. Hell, you had a 4th down play to end the game with Julian Edelman, and the defender comes over his back, tipped the ball away without making contact on Edelman, and you just were not able to overcome that. The best, rather than crying, standing there crying, complaining about calls, the best way to overcome them is by doing something about it. Not just sitting there complaining, realizing that, there's plays to do afterwards. There's plays to make afterwards. This isn't, the failed Mary in Seattle where that was the final game play of the game, and you have scab referees making a call that decided who won and who lost the game. So enough with your bitching, Patriot fans. All right, no one wants to hear it. But that loss now, it puts the Patriots essentially 2 games back of the Ravens, because the Ravens are 11-2, the Patriots are 10-3, and the Patriots, let's face it, aren't even guaranteed to win the division yet. They still got a meeting to go with the Buffalo Bills, and the Bills held them to 16 points last time. If not for Kyle Allen getting hurt with a concussion scare, or Josh Allen, without his concussion scare there in the second half, maybe they would have won that game. So, it's weird to see, but these aren't, your old Patriots anymore. They don't have much as it goes offensively. They don't run the ball well. And unless you're throwing a slant pattern pass to Edelman or an out route to James White, teams simply have them figured out. And unless their defense goes on a run here and turns into, say, the 2000 Baltimore Ravens, I don't think we're going to be looking at the Pats joining their buddy Rob Gronkowski as he's partying down in Miami this coming February for Super Bowl 54. All right, I'm going to take first break of the podcast here. We've got a lot to get to over the next 40 minutes or so, give you some thoughts on the rest of Week 14, including a coaching firing that happened last week. Some thoughts on quick thoughts on the Jets game yesterday, as well as some other things that are going on in the local sports, as well as, college football playoffs are set. We'll talk about if the committee got that right. So a lot to get to. Glad you could join me this week. So for the next, as I said, 40, 45 minutes here, put your feet up, relax, and continue keeping it sports with M3.
I'll be back.
You know, our jobs occupy more than half our waking hours. Shouldn't we be doing something we love? Call Connecticut School of Broadcasting at 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to gocsb.com. Since 1964, Connecticut School of Broadcasting, with a network of 12 campuses from Massachusetts to Miami, has helped place thousands of grads as DJs, sportscasters, entertainment reporters, behind the scenes in audio and video production, every aspect of the broadcast media. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has trained men and women of all ages and backgrounds in a matter of months, not years. Learn by doing from area radio and TV pros. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to gocsb.com. Remember, it's never too late to love what you do. Day and evening classes begin soon. Get trained. Get connected now.
Welcome back to Keeping It Sports with M3. Hope you're all enjoying your Monday afternoons. Now, as I mentioned before the break, we had a coaching firing last week. What am I doing? Messing with the camera there. There we are. We had a coaching firing last week. And, when you get into the month of December, I'm always curious why a team makes a coaching change at this point. It's one thing. We've all speculated for weeks about, could Jerry Jones fire Jason Garrett during the season? Well, that has not happened. That's not going to be going down at least this week. Who knows? They could get blown out by the Rams next Sunday, and Jerry has a completely different thought. But I was, surprised to see on my car ride home last Tuesday that the Panthers fired Ron Rivera after 12 games here. I figured, they're out of the playoff mix now after yesterday's loss to the Falcons in Atlanta. But I figured, maybe give him the rest of this year. But they're deciding to go in a different direction. I don't think they're going to go to Norv Turner as the long-term head coach, the current offensive coordinator, because as I've said before when it comes to Norv, he's fantastic when it comes to play calling. But that man should not be allowed near a sidelines. You put him up in the booth, you let him make the offensive decisions up there with the microphone in the quarterback's helmet. You allow him nowhere near your sidelines because we've seen how bad that can turn out to be over the years. But Rivera's been a pretty good coach. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that he's amongst the top 5 coaches in the NFL. He's not Sean Payton, Andy Reid, John Harbaugh, Mike Tomlin. He's not in those ranks of guys. Not even to mention Belichick there. I mean, he's a level of his own. But he's a solid coach. The guy got to the postseason multiple times over the last 9 years. Got them to a Super Bowl in which they just ran into a Broncos defense that was on a roll there and wanted to send Peyton Manning out on right terms. I think Ron Rivera, he did a good job there. I think he will get another opportunity as a head coach. I wouldn't be surprised if he's coaching again next year, especially, you look at the openings you could have. You could have Cleveland. You could have, Jacksonville. Let's see, Detroit. I've heard speculation about that. The Giants. And, of course, everyone's going to make the Giant connection there because Dave Gettleman's the general manager there. The offensive coordinator was his offensive coordinator when they went to the Super Bowl. Not sure, what the relationship, how strong the relationship there is between those two sides. But I do think, that could potentially happen there. Although, Pat Shurmur still has a job, and there is no real feel to what his future is with the New York Giants. I mentioned Cleveland as a possibility, as an opening, and let's face it, the best thing that happened for the Browns this week was that they won the game yesterday against a Bengals team that, got their high last week by getting a win, avoiding the donut, but, the Browns took care of business. The real story with the Cleveland Browns is all the crap that's going on with this team off the field. It was first reported by Jay Glazer of Fox last week that Odell Beckham is telling players around the league, coaches around the league, telling his agent he wants out of Cleveland after this year, and the team is going to look to accommodate him. And remember, Jay had the news about Odell being traded last offseason away from the Giants before anyone else did. So I trust him when he says that. It's becoming more and more clear that Odell Beckham is just not going to be happy anywhere unless he's the center of attention. He's getting 12 passes at least thrown his way every game, because I don't think this is a Cleveland situation. I don't think this is a small market thing, because as we know, this guy could fly to LA or whatever city he wants on his off days and hang out there. No, this is about the fact that this situation went south very quickly. And we all knew that this was either going to be a very good team or was going to be a train wreck. And they've turned into train wreck, not because of the record, but because of all the stupid penalties. You got a head coach that wasn't even a full year as an offensive coordinator before taking the job. You have a bunch of pieces that never played together, playing with a second-year quarterback that he's got to mend or ease all of those egos. And let's face it, at times, Baker Mayfield has probably been the most mature person in the room, surprisingly, when it comes to that team. I mean, he handled the Myles Garrett situation better than anybody else on that roster. The two missteps that Mayfield has made this year were when he was meeting with the media after practice and kind of talked down to a reporter when he was asking about offensive philosophy. And then this week, when he ripped the medical staff due to the fact that we're now just finding out that Odell Beckham's been dealing with a sports hernia for most of the season, even dating back to the preseason, and he was highly critical of them and how they handled the situations. And I know he backtracked on Twitter later on, but all the way around, Cleveland just is a dumpster fire. And for anyone that's not a Cleveland Brown fan, we're sitting there pointing the finger at them saying, ha ha, ha 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 ha, because they were crowned before they ever even did anything. Packers beat the Redskins yesterday. Were not able to cover the 14-point spread in that game because the Redskins actually came to play a little bit, showed a little bit of life in the second half. The win here mostly goes on Aaron Jones and his 100-yard game, allowing them to control the clock, as well as the Packers' defense, allowing only about 260 yards, keeping the Redskins to 4 for 11 on third down, as well as the beating that they put on Haskins at time. That he give the kid credit. He kept getting up after all of these hits, and he took some big shots yesterday. But just when it looked like the Redskins could maybe be in this game before halftime, you get the Adrian Amos interception at midfield to prevent any, possible score right before halftime to give the Redskins any life. And, right now the Packers sit there as the number 2 seed in the NFC with everything that went on with the 49ers Saints yesterday, as well as the Seahawks, which we'll talk about in a minute. Funny thing is, they haven't even clinched the division yet. I don't even think they've technically clinched a playoff spot yet, and they're 10-3 with 3 weeks to go in the season, and they play nothing but division matchups going down the stretch. They got the Bears in their home finale this week, and 2 road games after that with the Vikings and the Lions to close up the season. And the Vikings remain right on the trail for the NFC North. What helps is that the Packers are undefeated in the division, while the Vikings already have 2 losses in the division, including losing to the Packers earlier this season. But the Vikings held serve yesterday. Their defense shut down the Lions, got 2 interceptions against David Blau, and improved to 9-4 at a time when they're not just trying to get the division, but hold serve against the Rams, who are on their trail for the second wild card spot. There were a couple teams that just pulled no-show performances yesterday that were kind of surprising. The Jacksonville Jaguars getting blown out by the Chargers at home, and this was a total mail-it-in game for the Jaguars. You would have thought maybe they have a little life in them with Gardner-Minshew going back there as the starting quarterback, but from the onset they mailed it in. They were trailing 24-3 at halftime. Rivers had a better game than what we've seen from him recently, throwing for 3 touchdowns. Even Tyrod Taylor came in the game at one point, threw a touchdown, and the Jaguars committed 10 penalties on the day for over 100 yards, just showing a team that didn't want to play, didn't want to even be there. And you would have thought that it would be the Chargers that were more the lifeless team, being the fact they had to travel 3,000 miles across the country to play this game. But just a pitiful performance by them. The Raiders basically continued to kill whatever playoff chances they still had, losing to the Titans. I mean, this game was all about Derrick Henry and continuing to be one of the more underrated backs in the league, along with Tannehill overcoming a interception by Maurice Hurst to start the game. He got flowing there after that. You had the 91-yard touchdown to A.J. Brown, and now this was the Titans' 4th straight victory, kind of trying to keep pace with the Steelers for that final spot in the AFC postseason, as well as a 3rd straight loss for the Raiders, a team that is now looking like they were a fluke, a team that they were 6-4 about 3 weeks ago. Everyone's saying, "Oh, look how well this team is playing. They've gotten off to a better start than anyone expected." And now 3 straight weeks they've been blown out, including at the Jets, at the Chiefs, and now yesterday to the Titans. But the most confounding one to me is probably the Texans. Trailing 31-3 at home at halftime to the Broncos. you have 3 turnovers, 2 picks by Watson, and then the fumble by Kiki Corte that allowed the Broncos to get off to a 2-score lead in the first half. Give credit to the Broncos here. Drew Lock has played very well since taking over as the starting quarterback there. Maybe they got something there with him long term, but no, this was a typical letdown game that we've seen from the Texans over the years. After having such a big win on Sunday Night Football against the Patriots last week, they come in here and lay an egg at home to a Broncos team that is just playing for pride at this point. At a time where they keep trying to allow the Colts back into the division race, but the Colts aren't taking advantage of that. I mean, yesterday they lose to the Buccaneers, a game that is your typical Jameis Winston game. He throws for 450, 4 touchdowns, but also has 3 picks along the way, 2 to Darius Leonard, but each time was able to rebound from that and followed up with a quick score. And even, had the interception by Malik Hooker in the fourth quarter that you thought, this is where the Colts will lock things down, but was able to drive down the field for a go-ahead score with about 3 minutes remaining. And, the Colts, maybe the magic ride that they were on, they got off to such a good start, even with losing Andrew Luck. Now they have gone 1-4 in their last 5 games and have looked like they lost all of that good feel that they had earlier this season, just like the Raiders did. I want to give a lot of credit, though, as well to the Steelers. Another victory yesterday, get to 8-5, currently holding down a playoff spot, even with all the guys they have injured, without Connor, without Juju Smith-Schuster, but they just remain in this race. That's why you got to look at Mike Tomlin and say that's the coach of the year. He's coaching with a third-string quarterback right now that's, in all honesty, probably better than the backup quarterback. But, got those guys motivated. The defense, once again, yesterday played strong in the second half, getting 3 interceptions against Kyler Murray. He threw all of those on their 3 of their 4 second half possessions, and were able to lock down a game that wasn't easy, was ugly at times, even when they went for that fake punt early in the game. But were able to lock it down and stick in the postseason race here as they got the Titans right on their necks. And on Sunday night, last night, the Rams as well kept themselves alive for postseason contention. I thought an underrated thing that happened to the Seahawks in this game, didn't get a lot of play, was losing Rashad Penny on the first drive of the game to the MCL sprain, because that took away a lot of the rushing attack by the Seahawks. You weren't going to just run Chris Carson into the ground. Russell Wilson wasn't able to scramble as much, had to hang around there in the pocket a little bit, and just did not have a great night. The Rams defense came on strong here and held them to 12 points for the game. And, kept themselves at least alive for a postseason berth going down the stretch. Going to take another break here, come back on the other side, look at what went on with college football in Championship Saturday and I guess Championship Friday night over the weekend, as well as, we got some baseball things to talk about a little bit later on. Continue keeping it sports with M3.
I'll be back.
It's been 48 years Connecticut School of Broadcasting has helped place thousands of people, just like you, in exciting careers in radio, television, and the new media. At Connecticut School of Broadcasting, our hands-on approach is different. It's designed to have you spend less time in the classroom and more time in the studios. From the first day, you'll work with state-of-the-art equipment. Learn by doing from our team of industry professionals who come from their studios to ours. The best part about it, you'll learn it all in a matter of months, not years. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has a network of 12 campuses from Massachusetts to Miami. Remember, it's never too late to love what you do. So do what I did. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO. Step into the fast-paced world of the broadcast media. Day and evening classes begin soon. Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Get trained and get connected now. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com.
All right, I'm back here. Quick reminder before we get to the college football. Be sure to tell your friends about this podcast, where you can find it each and every single week. Facebook.com/KeepingItSports with M3, as well as you can find that on Twitter. I post the link to this on both my personal Twitter account and the Twitter account I've set up for the podcast. My personal Twitter account is at M3Rosansky. It's at MTHREEROZANSKY at M3Rosansky. And the Twitter account I've set up for the podcast is at Keeping It Sports. You can also check out my other podcast, M3's Opinion. Find that anchor.fm/M3's Opinion, or go on the podcast app and find that. I do a couple of those each week, mainly breaking down Monday Night Football and Thursday Night Football, as well as any news that will come along the way throughout the week. Now, this weekend was a big weekend in college football, as you know, it was going to finally be the decider. We're going to finally get answers one way or another. Are 4 teams in the college football playoff, and we had a good feeling about. I would say the vast majority of us had a good feeling about how the top 3 was going to go. That it was going to be some order of LSU, Ohio State, and Clemson for the 4-team playoff. Unless Clemson somehow got upset by Virginia, we knew they were going to be in. They're undefeated, defending national champions, even with the soft schedule that they have been playing. And I guess everyone continuing to bring that up on a day in, day out, week in, week out basis kind of pissed them off, because all they did was go out there and put up over 600 yards against Virginia, along with 4 touchdowns by Trevor Lawrence, 2 by T. Higgins. And let's face it, the game was never really in doubt after about midway through the second quarter. So they were in. Ohio State struggled a little early on against Wisconsin, but by the second half, their defense was on lockdown mode and gave Wisconsin no answers whatsoever. Was able to win the Big Ten, so they locked up their spot. The only question would be if somehow Georgia could pull off the upset against LSU, because the feeling was that if Georgia won a close game against LSU, they'd take the 2 SEC teams. Problem here is, Georgia got their doors blown off in the SEC title game once again, because there was just no stopping, no denying Joe Burrows on Saturday. I mean, if you wanted another defining play on what's a season that's probably going to end up him winning a Heisman Trophy, how about that 71-yard touchdown play to Justin Jefferson in the third quarter? I know they were already up by 3 touchdowns at this point, but there were at least 2, probably 3 times on that play Burrows could have been sacked for a loss, and instead he avoids each tackle. At first, I thought he was just throwing along the right side and going to throw the ball away. And then, stunning to me, Justin Jefferson comes open and allows them to get in easy scoring position. Problem here for Georgia on a couple fronts. They needed to play an absolutely perfect game in order to win on Saturday. Meaning, no missed field goals, no mess-ups on special teams, and Rodrigo Blankenship missed 2 field goals that hurt them, not really from winning the game, but from getting some kind of life, some kind of momentum in the game. And they didn't get any big plays because they were not going to beat LSU in a 40-37 shootout. That's not their game, as we've seen all year. It was going to have to be the defense calm down LSU and them get lucky, have some long drives, get some big plays in the mix here. And you could say the turning point of this game was at the very start of the game. Not the two teams taking the field. That'd be an obnoxious, outrageous take. It was on the very first play when Jake Fromm threw one right down the middle to about the 30-yard line to Tyler Simmons, and he didn't hold on to the ball. They needed something like that just to get a good mojo going early on, get good feeling for them, take advantage of plays down the field, get some big plays down the field, surprise LSU like that. And instead, they didn't get any of that going for them. They didn't have anything positive break their way early on. And the only thing really for them that was broken was their hearts and their spirits as LSU blasted them to win another SEC title. So you got those first 3 spots locked down. And it was only a question of who was going to be the 4th spot with Georgia losing. Well, we thought Utah was in a great position with the last ranking coming out on Tuesday and the committee putting them at 5, meaning that they win the Pac-12 title. We see what happens in the SEC title game. They can get into the college playoff. Unfortunately, they couldn't stop C.J. Fizdale on Friday night as he ran for over 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. We thought maybe there was a chance to complete this comeback in the 4th quarter after trailing 20-0 at halftime, getting beat up on both sides of the line of scrimmage. But Fizdale closes the game out with 2 touchdowns, so including the big 70-yarder. And this is a guy that had only 5 touchdowns on the year. He shined in a night that, all the talk coming in was, the 2 quarterbacks, especially Justin Gerber, his last chance to win a Pac-12 championship. And instead, it was his running back dominated the night against a team that was number 1 in the country at stopping the rush. They just had no stop for Fizdale all night long. So that opened up the door for the Big 12 champion, and Oklahoma gladly walked their way through it. Now, it wasn't easy for them either on Saturday afternoon, especially after getting off to a quick start. Jalen Hurts looking fantastic in the first half, and it was a tale of 2 quarters for him in the first half because he threw for over 120 yards in the first quarter, had only 1 incompletion, and then the second quarter he has the 2 turnovers, the fumble to Bernard, and then the interception to Jordan Williams that gave Baylor the lead right before halftime. And what was most surprising about this is the fact that Baylor's doing this without their starting quarterback. Charlie Brewer left in the first quarter with a concussion. They're on a backup quarterback in Gary Bohannon, who, let's face it, did not play well. Felt too much pressure. But they got a little bit of life there in the 4th quarter going to this third-string quarterback, who I believe is a freshman in Jacob Zeno, throws for 150 yards on his first 2 passes right out of the gate there in the fourth quarter, tying the game back up. But in overtime, they came up short. And I understand, wanting to have the ball second, wanting to know what your opponent does. But sometimes, maybe in a championship scenario like this, maybe it's better when you win the coin toss to take the football, put the pressure on the other team instead of just hoping for your defense to make a stop and either have a game-winning touchdown after they have a field goal, or having a walk-off field goal after a turnover or a stop there. Just, the Sooners defense was not going to be denied in that overtime, and didn't even give Zeno enough time to check down the field and get a pass down the field, as they went 3 and out and gave Oklahoma their 5th straight Big 12 championship. So the only question after Saturday was what order they were going to be in. But as we see now, on December 28th, you're going to have LSU versus Oklahoma, 1-4 in the Peach Bowl. And later in that day, you'll have 2-3, Ohio State versus Clemson in the Fiesta Bowl. And this is someone with no dog in the fight, no gambling on this, no real rooting interest. But wouldn't it be a cool story if you get 1-2, Ohio State versus LSU? You have Ohio State, arguably the best player in the country, Chase Young, the dominant Heisman candidate season he's had, and some of the crazy stuff that he's had to deal with along the way, going up against LSU with Joe Burrows, originally an Ohio State transfer that only transferred when he didn't realize that he wasn't going to get the starting nod over Dwayne Haskins. Had to sit there behind Barrett and behind multiple other quarterbacks throughout his 3-4 years there. This is a kid that grew up in Ohio. This probably was his dream to play for Ohio State, play for the Buckeyes as their quarterback. Transfers to LSU and has done nothing but become almost like a godlike figure there in a matter of one season. And now he's got a chance to possibly not just win a Heisman, but possibly play his former team in a national championship. But as they say, he's got business to attend to before that game can happen on January the 6th. But no matter what happens, I hope we have 2 great games, 2 classic games to build up for an even more classic finale to this college football season. All right, going to take one more break here before finish up, come back on the other side, talk some local stuff, Jets, Knicks, and as well the winter meetings, as things might become a little bit more interesting now for the Yankees when it comes to their dealings with certain free agents. I'll get to that on the other side. Continue keeping it sports with M3.
I'll be back.
Connecticut School of Broadcasting founder Dick Robinson.
The media business has changed a lot since we opened our doors in 1964. Now media content is everywhere, on air, online, on the go. More than ever, companies are looking for people to help drive this new media.
At Connecticut School of Broadcasting, you'll get hands-on training on the latest software and equipment in a matter of months, not years. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has placed thousands of grads in broadcast media careers.
It's all about versatility. You see, at a radio station, if you you also know how to shoot, edit, and post videos, you become a pretty hot commodity. That's the training you get at Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Connecticut School of Broadcasting with locations up and down the East Coast from Massachusetts to Miami. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to gocsb.com. Connecticut School of Broadcasting, the nation's oldest and largest group of broadcast media schools. Redefining training in radio, TV, and new media. Get trained. Get connected. 1-800-TV-RADIO.
From New York, we back to smack talk.
Yes, the Jets are 5-8 on the season, but I do enjoy hearing that music after a win on a Sunday. And there's a lot of my friends were saying on our bus ride home yesterday, what's the point of the Jets winning any more games? What good does it do for them? Well, the one good it does for them is Sam Darnold. As I've said before, I don't want him to continuously be losing games while putting up decent to good numbers and not building a winning mentality there, building that idea in his mind that he can overcome anything, and knowing when he's in tough situations going forward that he knows how to overcome them when he's trailing late in a game. So that to me is the positives I take out of the Jets winning games here down the stretch. And by no means was this game pretty yesterday. I mean, you knew going in you're going to be without Le'Veon Bell, going to be without Jamal Adams. But the Jet defense, held serve. They kept the Dolphins to 7 field goals on 8 attempts, especially when they had 4 trips inside the red zone, and had to on a day where Darnold wasn't great. The numbers probably make him look better than he truly was. I was surprised when I got home after the game and saw that he had thrown for 270 yards because he missed a lot of open receivers throughout the day. Thought there were a lot of chances to take down the field, and there were some chances to take just easy dump off because he tried to take a shot down and hit Vincent Smith on that interception he threw in the third quarter, when really if he would have opened up his eyes, he's got Crowder running across the field right at the line of gain. Didn't have to take the deep shot there. Could have just continued to slowly and methodically go down the field. But as I said before, Jets defense held serve every time the Dolphins got into the red zone. The Jets got the break of a call late in the game. And this I've never seen when it comes to the pass interference rule. I've been wondering if this would actually happen, where there would be a pass interference review on a play that wasn't challenged. Because as you know, inside the final 2 minutes, you can't challenge anything. Everything is up to review by the referees up in the booth and back at their main station at the head office for the NFL. But they called a pass interference against Nick Needham on what would have been a 4th and 18 attempt for the Jets at around midfield. And instead, that gives the Jets 6 extra yards and a first down with about 40 seconds left to go. I mean, I don't blame the Dolphins for being pissed off about that call. I don't blame them whatsoever. I mean, the coach was flipping out after the game, but I don't think he even went up to Adam Gase shook his hand after that because Brian Flores, and he's screaming at the top of his lungs, flipping out at the officials for making that change, because gave the Jets new life, allowed them to get in good enough field position for Sam Ficken to hit a walk-off field goal and give the Jets their 5th victory of the year and what could be their last victory of the year, because you look at the final 3 games of the season, those games are more important for the opposition. They're going to get their ass handed to them on Thursday night in Baltimore against the Ravens. That we know. Then you're going to be playing in 2 weeks at MetLife Stadium against the Steelers in a game that's important for the Steelers' playoff chances. That is probably going to be 70% Steeler fans waving those stupid yellow towels. And then week 17, who knows who's actually going to show up other than Sam Darnold and give a damn when they're playing the Bills, when the Bills could be competing for playoff seeding, could be competing for a division title that week if things break right for them. So, no, I'm happy the Jets won, because I can never sit there and root for them to lose on any given Sunday, but I'm kind of just blah as far as my feeling is concerned with that. Not surprised by the fact that the Knicks fired David Fizdale the other day. I'm not surprised about anything that's happened in this situation. The fact that they fire him on a Friday. B, the fact that they let him coach practice on Friday morning and then fire him later that afternoon. And C, the fact that we have not heard from Steve Mills or Scott Perry since then. All we've seen is a release come out thanking David Fizdale for his 100-plus games as the head coach. And they've moved on, named Mike Miller, one of his assistants, as the interim head coach without any true explanation to that, without any, like, oh, this is why we hired him. This is why we chose this guy. We're not sure if we're going with him long term. Not giving anyone any clue to their plans for this. But then again, that's typical New York Knicks basketball for you. And I said I wasn't surprised by the firing because I told you a month ago, this guy was a dead man walking. After that press conference following a Sunday night game against the Cavaliers, which they got blown out at MSG, and you got Mills and Perry up there talking about how this isn't what we expected. We thought we would be better than this. He was essentially roadkill from that point on. I was surprised he made it into the month of December. I knew that he was going to get fired, if not then, at some point before the turn of the new year. And to me, what really did it was not just the fact that they lost 2 games last week by 35 points each. No, I think it's like the second or third time in their franchise history that they've done this. But the fact that after the loss to Milwaukee last week, you have Fizdale coming out and saying that, oh, we didn't come in thinking that we could win. And when do you ever want to hear an athlete or a head coach saying that? Even if you're thinking it, it's never something that should be crossing your mind. So, no, it was just a matter of when, not if, for Fizdale. Did he do a good job as the Knicks head coach? No. I mean, there are people around the league that will try and tell you that, oh, he got screwed, like Greg Popovich, like Steve Kerr, like Rick Carlisle, but they don't watch every Knicks game. They don't realize that, this guy had weird rotations. It isn't best when it comes to developing young players. You need more of a veteran, seasoned team for him as your head coach, although we saw how that turned out 2 years ago when Marc Gasol got him fired in Memphis. So, no, it was a typical Knicks way for his coaching tenure to end, and a coaching tenure that there's nothing memorable about other than the front office holding him, throwing him under the bus after a Sunday night game, and him not thinking that the team could win a game in Milwaukee, and them showing little to no effort in the games following that. Now, we got the winter meetings coming up here. Actually, they've started today, and I'm probably the most insane person in the world. The fact that currently, if you're watching on either Facebook or Twitter, you will see that I'm continuously looking down at my iPod Touch. See, look at that right there. And continuously updating, checking alerts, seeing if there's any update on, this Gerrit Cole situation. Because as we all know, the Yankees have made him their number one target. Hal Steinbrenner's already given Brian Cashman the approval to make a record-setting offer to him, a record-setting offer that they made yesterday, and is going to have to be made even larger now due to the fact that they offered Cole yesterday 7 years, $245 million. Well, within the last hour, Steven Strasburg, the other big free agent pitcher on this market, agreed to return to the Washington Nationals for 7 years, $245 million. Good for him. The fact that he turned the final 4 years, $100 million he had left into 7 years for $245 million. But now that just ups the ante for Cole, because he's going to be the highest paid free agent in this class, going to be the highest paid pitcher in baseball. It's just a matter of what the number is going to ultimately be. And I'm just saying this right now. It's Cole or bust if you're the Yankees. You can't come out of this free agency without signing this guy. I know, maybe the Angels come along with something insane and offer him a 10-year, $400 million contract. But unless that happens, you can't let yourself get outbid for this guy. All right? The last time you don't go to California last week, meet with him, meet with his representatives, fly back to the East Coast so Brian Cashman could do his yearly charity event in Connecticut where he's climbing down a building to then fly back to the West Coast on Sunday for the winter meetings in San Diego. You don't do that unless you are dead serious about a guy, all right? It's been a long time since the Yankees landed the big fish in a free agent market. And you've got to realize that with the next CBA coming up in the next couple of years, there may be changes to it where there is no more luxury tax, or the luxury tax becomes much higher as baseball continues to build in its revenue. You have to go and do whatever it takes. Make this guy the highest paid pitcher in baseball. If it takes 8 years for $300 million, so be it. All right? You have a window to win. Aaron Judge is not going to be young forever. Gary Sanchez is not going to be young forever. Gleyber Torres, Luis Severino, they're not going to be young forever. And there's not going to be another one of these guys coming along anytime soon in free agency. When you look at his talent level, the fact that he's had 2 back-to-back Cy Young caliber years, and he's only 29. He's a year younger than Max Scherzer was as a free agent in 2014, and Scherzer got 7 years for $210 million. And you go look at those two guys' stats at the time as free agents, they're eerily identical. So this is a must-have if you're the Yankees, if you're a Yankee fan, because there will be extreme disappointment if this does not happen. Now, if you're a Met fan, you went from extreme disappointment to jubilation last week when you see Zach Wheeler late in the week sign with the Philadelphia Phillies, sign for a contract that let's face it, the Mets were never going to offer him. We're never going to give him. And I feel good for the guy because he missed 2 years due to Tommy John surgery, struggled in 2017, and has done nothing but rebound and become the Mets' second best pitcher over the last 2 years. Look it up, Met fans. He was better than Noah Syndergaard and made more starts over the course of 2 years than did Noah Syndergaard. This guy went to the post every day, was going deep into these games, and got better as the season goes along. Now, the only question I have about him going to the Phillies is that ballpark. We know it's a bandbox there. Pop-ups to left field can easily turn into first or second row home runs. But this guy's a good pitcher. Became a free agent at 29. He's obviously getting paid off potential. And aren't you lucky now, Mets, that you signed Jacob deGrom to an extension last year after spring training? Because Zach Wheeler's only making $2 million per year less than Jacob deGrom. Can you imagine if deGrom was still going to be a free agent next year, how much more you'd have to pay him? But that soon may not even become a concern for Met fans, as it looks like they're about to get new ownership fairly soon here, with the reports coming down from Newsday the other day that the Wilpons are currently in the process of negotiating a sell-off of a majority share of their ownership. They currently own 80% of the franchise, and selling that to one of their investors, billionaire Steve Cohen, a man whose net worth is $3.6 billion. If approved by baseball, once the negotiations are complete, he would get 51% ownership immediately, and then slowly but surely gain the rest over the next 5 years. Very good day for the Met fans. Even with the lingering questions that come here with this, this guy has had some, issues in his way of life, his business, in the last 5-6 years, whether it be the $1.8 billion he spent to resolve an insider trading and money laundering charges in November of 2013. And then in a separate issue in 2016, him and his company paid $135 million to settle another civil insider trading lawsuit. So there's that kind of sketchiness to his background. But let's face it, if you're a billionaire, you're anyone of any kind of wealth, I'm sure we go digging far enough in any billionaire's closet, whether it be our president, whether it be any of the NFL owners, whether it be Vince McMahon, anybody out there of wealth that's in this top 50 of richest people in America. I'm sure you're going to find some skeleton, some nefarious play in their background. So that is not much of a concern to me. But I will say this to you, Met fans. All right? Just take this in stride. Take this, be modest about this. Don't be, walking around, puffing out your chest, acting like, you're going to get everybody as a free agent. Because look at the bad reputation that's done to some Yankee fans on social media over the years. Why, I would say Yankee fans, more so than their ownership, more so than their players on their team, are hated by everyone out there. Not all of them, but I would say a good portion of the fans that just think that, point, and I can have that. You don't want to be like that. Yeah, you want to see your team spend money. You want to see your team have one of the top payrolls in the league, be up there with the Red Sox, Yankees, Dodgers, Houston Astros, the big boys spending money, having a shot when these big free agents come into play. But you don't want to be an asshole about it, should we say. You don't want to be always a pariah for other fan bases. So it's a good week for the Mets. Take this in stride. Know that there are better days to come in the future, that it looks like you're going to have a better ownership group running this, someone that cares about winning, will do what it takes to win, and not just saving money in their purse strings. I mean, the only things that really still I question about all of this is why the Wilpons are going to be holding on to the ownership of SMY, why that's going to be separated from the team, because that's a big part of the income of this team, having its own regional network, as well as talk. It seems like it's a matter of fact that he's going to get approved as the owner. I just wonder why that is. Not because of his past business transactions, but because you look years back, Mark Cuban tried to get into Major League Baseball before the Ricketts family bought the Cubs, and he was denied. That was one of the last big accomplishments for the commissioner before passing off the reins to Rob Manfred. So, I just wonder if it's still a lock set. But hey, it's a happy, joyous occasion for the Mets. Looks like they're going to start acting like a big-time franchise and not acting like the Kansas City Royals or the Pittsburgh Pirates, thinking that we can't spend because we're a small market team. And you're not going to have to hear about the Madoff scandal anymore. I'm going to be as I said, on the constant outlook for Gerrit Cole. I mean, look, I'm uploading and updating Twitter as we speak, seeing if there's any updates. And for all I know, watch, an hour after I end this podcast, there's going to be some kind of update, some kind of news when it comes to this situation, whether it be a new offer, whether it be maybe him choosing what team he's going to go to. But until then, that, my friends, was Keeping It Sports with M3 from Monday, December 9th, 2019. Everyone, have a great week. Check out my other podcasts, M3's Opinion, on anchor.fm/M3's Opinion throughout the week for Monday Night Football and Thursday Night Football recaps. Enjoy the rest of your night, everyone. Peace.
We have to go. Good night, everybody. I have had enough of you. Thank you for all the fun. Thank you. Hey, shut up, will you?
I don't want to see you, I don't want to hear you, and I don't want to smell you. Now leave. I'll be back.